The history of the Porsche brand is a complex and intriguing one, full of both success and tragedy, innovation and destruction. To truly understand the story, we must go back to where it all began in 1898, when Ferdinand Porsche left his job to pursue a career in the automotive world. Over the next few decades, he would go on to create some of the most groundbreaking and fastest vehicle designs for other car manufacturers, cementing his status as one of the greatest engineers of all time. However, after founding his own car company, Porsche found himself on a darker path when he became involved in military projects for the Nazi regime, leading to his imprisonment and eventual death. Despite its dark beginnings, Porsche has since transformed itself into one of the greatest luxury car brands in the world. Ferdinand Porsche was born in September 1875 in a small village in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, now part of the Czech Republic. At the time, carriages, trains, and bicycles were the primary modes of transportation, with the first automobiles slowly emerging. Porsche's father ran a blacksmithing business, but Ferdinand never showed much interest in taking over the family business. Instead, he put his focus on school, hoping to find a career elsewhere. After losing his older brother at age 14, Ferdinand dropped out of school to work full-time at his father's workshop. These were difficult times for Ferdinand, as he reluctantly followed in his father's footsteps into a job he didn't enjoy. However, he found fulfillment in exploring electricity in his spare time, experimenting with electric circuits in the attic of his house. His father wasn't pleased with his new hobby and frequently told him to stop, but after noticing how passionate and obsessed Ferdinand was with electricity, he decided to enroll his son in the Imperial Technical School of Reichenberg to develop his knowledge of engineering. There, Ferdinand quickly learned the basics, and within just a few months into his studies, he was able to build his own electric generator and install electric light bulbs all over the house. At this point, his father could no longer ignore his son's talent, and so he finally gave in and let him pursue his own path. Little did they know, this new path would help pioneer a brand new industry, automobiles. In 1893, at the age of 18, Ferdinand left home and landed his first job at Bella Egger & Company, a manufacturer of electric machinery in Vienna. There, he quickly rose through the ranks, becoming recognized for his brilliance and skill as an engineer. During his time at Bella Egger, he built the company's first electric wheel hub motor, which could be attached to any vehicle's wheel to make it move directly. While it was commonly used for bicycles at the time, Ferdinand was already developing other ideas for this motor. Around this time, the first automobiles were emerging in the region, creating enormous excitement among the people and the engineers looking to enter the new industry. Ferdinand was no exception, and after 5 years working for Bella Egger, he quit his job and started working for Jacob Lohner & Company, which had recently stopped producing carriages to focus on building self-powered vehicles. It was here that the 23-year-old Ferdinand used his electric motors to build his first ever automobile, the Porsche P1. The fully electric car was built using a wooden carriage and had an approximate range of 49 miles. During the early days of automobiles, racing was the primary use for these machines. One notable example is the car created by Ferdinand Porsche. While it was impressive, it could only reach a top speed of 21 miles per hour due to its heavy lead-acid batteries. This is not surprising, as cars at this time were not yet seen as a practical means of transportation, but rather as competition vehicles used for racing across Europe and America. Porsche continued to refine his design until he added an internal combustion engine in 1900, creating the world's first gasoline-electric hybrid car, the Lohner Porsche Electromobile. This new vehicle achieved a top speed of 36 miles per hour and won various motorsports events, including breaking several Austrian speed records. However, its short mileage range and weight of almost 2 tons ultimately hindered the development of electric cars for almost a century. After his partnership with Lohner ended, Porsche became the chief designer for Austro-Daimler, a leading manufacturer of modern combustion engines at the time. Here, he designed his first purely petrol motor automobile, the Austro-Daimler Maya, in 1908. This eventually led to his big break in the racing world with the Austro-Daimler Model 2780, a vehicle capable of reaching top speeds of 85 miles per hour, and built specifically for the popular Prince Henry trial race in 1910. This win increased Porsche's popularity and earned him the title of professor at the company. When World War I broke out in 1914, the Austro-Daimler manufacturer contributed to the war effort by producing machinery for the Austro-Hungarian army. Porsche was also involved and made a name for himself by creating groundbreaking designs for military aircraft and engines, as well as artillery tractors like the M17 Goliath, establishing himself as one of the best engineers of his time. After the war ended in 1918, Porsche returned to building race cars. In 1922, he created the Austro-Daimler Sascha, a smaller vehicle than his competitors, with the belief that it would outperform cars with bigger engines. The Sascha went on to win 43 out of 53 races, including the Targa Florio in 1922. In 1928, Porsche introduced the Mercedes-Benz SSK, which is arguably one of the fastest and greatest sports cars of its time. It had a 7.1-liter six-cylinder engine with 200 to 300 horsepower and a top speed of 190 km per hour. The SSK became the champion of the 500 miles of Argentina in 1929 and continued to win more Grand Prix victories until its peak in 1931 when it took yet another first-place victory at the Mille Miglia race. During its time, the Porsche was not only the fastest and most valuable sports vehicle in the world, but also boasted a sleeker version in the Trossy Roadster, designed by none other than Ferdinand Porsche himself. This extravagant car further solidified Porsche as one of the greatest car designers of his era. Unfortunately, shortly after its introduction, Ferdinand Porsche grew tired of creative differences between himself and the Mercedes-Benz board, prompting him to leave the company and join another car manufacturer. However, this new company collapsed shortly after due to the Great Depression, leaving Porsche unemployed despite the economic crisis. It was at this pivotal moment that he decided to make the biggest decision of his career, founding his own car company, Porsche GmbH. He brought in many of his former associates to work for his new company, including his own son, Ferry Porsche, who showed great promise in designing and engineering. Initially, Porsche GmbH offered consulting and motor development projects for other car manufacturers. However, despite being one of the most famous engineers in Germany, the company struggled to take off as clients were not coming in. The country was still recovering from the economic ruins of the First World War, and the demand for public automobiles was nearly non-existent. Just as the business was struggling, Ferdinand received a surprising letter from a foreign source that would change the company's trajectory. In 1933, Adolf Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany and took a special interest in automobiles. He recruited the best car engineers in the country, including Porsche, and sat down for an important meeting. Hitler wanted every German citizen to own a car that could seat a family of 5, be fuel efficient, and cost 990 Reichsmarks, a sum that many engineers considered impossible. Porsche submitted his design and won the contract for Hitler. This alliance set up an unusual but fruitful relationship between the two. Hitler needed a creative mind to design his ambitious car, while Porsche needed political backing for his company so he wouldn't have to worry about finances. Therefore, in 1934, Porsche and his team began to work on building one of the most successful cars in human history, the Volkswagen Beetle. The Beetle, later known as the Volkswagen Type 1 for its body shape, was a two-door car with an air-cooled engine in the back, which required minimal maintenance and made the steering easier to handle. Thanks to its weight balance, it also proved to be very fuel efficient, with a mileage of 31.4 miles per gallon, which is still impressive by today's standards. After 300,000 orders were placed for the Beetle, it was the biggest achievement Porsche had accomplished up to that point, and he was now ready to see his creation in working order. However, as the Volkswagen factory was preparing to mass-produce the car, another major event was taking place that would directly send Porsche's once bright career down a darker path. I would like to know how the story of Porsche continues. Then you definitely can't miss our next video on the subject.